Here's a quick little project I did recently, catching water off the roadside. Berm 1, berm 2, and this is going to be berm 3. The berm 3 I just placed in about 3 weeks ago. I flagged a bunch of trees I wanted to keep, like a mountain laurel and a gumbumelia and a live oak and another gumbumelia. I flagged everything in green so I knew not to hit it. I laid a bunch of big logs down, so back underneath here there are some enormous logs. Like this log is 6 or 8 inches in diameter. There's a couple of logs here that are, you know, 6, 8, 10 inches in diameter. I laid those down with some of the cedar branches I cut. Basically that's going to be the temporary bracing of a beaver dam. I piled up all of this mulch with a little bit of granite gravel and compost in it. Another thing I want to highlight here, see this branch? I didn't do this on accident. I actually lay these branches down. These are my lower cedar branches. I lay them down and I cover them up with the mulch. And what that does is that anchors this down. It keeps this green and alive and flexible and pliable. But as little trees start growing up underneath there, they're protected from deer. I also highlighted and I put in here with little white flags. There's some young mountain laurels coming up. I've got some more mountain laurel, as well as agarita, and we've got evergreen sumac, more mountain laurel with some little caterpillars eating it. Got all sorts of goodies, but really what's here is this mulch, beaver dam, another example of a mountain laurel as the green flags, and a evergreen sumac. So I cut some of these branches out, so I got down to a nice, tall, straighter cedar tree eventually. And those logs are going to help power the new regeneration of my landscape using these leguminous trees. And that's going to help bring life back to the land. Another thing I use, this is what I planted a long time ago. There's a little berm right in here, basically where you see the darker green. That berm comes and curves around, hits the telephone pole, and continues on what I just recently did. But this is about 2 years old, and it is covered in different legumes. So we've got our hairy vetch, we have got our Austrian winter pea cover crop, we have got something else here, I don't know what it is, but it's blooming in yellow and it's green and it grows. There are some other plants. I believe this is one of the actually this is not, but there is around here some, oh, this is it. This burr clover, a lot of people don't like it, but if you look really closely on the ground, you can also see, you know, lab seeds and soybean seeds. I threw a bunch of these out. They're just right on the surface, but they're cheap enough you can just throw them out. It would be great if I could have raked them in or covered them in, but I didn't want to damage these other plants. And what you end up with is these walls of leguminous green, and now I'm going to cross the road where I did that a couple years ago, and my neighbors had more bluebonnets on their side than I did. And now right along these mulch berms, you can see you've got bluebonnets right along the mulch berms. More bluebonnets right along the mulch berm. So there's a berm that comes right through here, and that's where the bluebonnets are. All the way down there, mulch berm right there, and you can see bluebonnets. And then you come to a spot where they had more bluebonnets to begin with, but planting those inexpensive leguminous cover crops with some rhizobium inoculant gets your land ready to have a wildflower flush like you've never seen before. I added very little to this landscape except the native juniper mulch. I think I did add, probably a couple years ago, added maybe, I don't know, 40 pounds of sulfur per acre. And I have thrown out green sand, which is an iron source, and basically just minerals. I have virtually added 0 fertilizer to this land and 0 supplemental watering because I can't even get a water hose out here. But I will come a little bit further. We had about an inch of rain earlier today, and there was very little runoff, but this pond did get a tiny bit of water in it, and this pond can hold probably 4, 5, 6 inches of water before it overflows. And as soon as it does, this fills up. There's a roadside ditch coming down, so there's water that used to flow straight down here. But I dug a hole right next to the roadside ditch that was deeper than the roadside ditch. Now the water flows into that hole, fills up the pond. Once the pond gets full, the spillway is the same roadside ditch that the water used to go down. So this water comes in, Actually, there's a little mulch berm that pulls it over away out of the property. So I pull it out of the ditch, drop it into this pond. Once this pond gets totally full, or about, you know, a foot from the top of the dam, it goes back into the roadside ditch underneath that tree and continues on down. So I'm not taking anybody's water. I'm only taking the runoff from the road that would rush right down the road, causing erosion and road maintenance problems all the way down the road, storing it here and letting it soak in the ground. Downstream from here, it doesn't affect any water going further down, because that water would already run off the road and continue on down. So I'm really just catching some of the runoff, the additional runoff we're getting from the impervious cover upstream, and turning it into frog breeding habitat in the middle of a dry caliche hillside. So let me just take 2 more steps down. Sorry for the longer video. This is the kind of dry caliche hillside that we used to have, and I've even improved that by around each of these red yuccas. I spread a little banana of mulch on the downhill side, so I caught it with this banana of mulch, and that banana of mulch, every time it rains, catches water, puts it right to the root system of those trees or plants. But, you know, just a dry caliche hillside, and now it is holding water to become a frog breeding habitat. And downstream from there, these plants are significantly healthier than other trees in the local area, because every time it rains they get a little bit of an extra drink. And I'll go back to, it's really easy to change a landscape. In just a few years we've turned this from a really barren dry caliche hillside with a couple of bluebonnets to now it's April 7th. Predominantly, the predominant vegetation is bluebonnets, nitrogen fixing plants. They're going to help reestablish this soil and make a better place. So changing the environment is really easy. The hardest environment to change is the one between your ears. It is the environment of the mind. Once you realize that you can make a land healthier by doing simple things and really stop doing destructive things, you can make a landscape come back to health very quickly. And I'll go just a little bit further up because I pretty much stopped doing any work right here, because this goes off onto another person's property and we don't own it. And which land do you think's healthier? The land here where they mow it all the time and haven't added any minerals or soil bacteria, soil microbes and fungus, or this land here that has waves of bluebonnets. In fact, from here you can see a great example. That's one of my berms coming off. That's where the bluebonnets are. Another berm coming off. That's where the bluebonnets are, right here. Right there. And then the other one, bluebonnets. That's a berm coming off, so that's extra mulch. And then further down, you can barely see it, but right there, there's another berm coming off. So catch the water, pull it in, catch the water, pull it in, catch the water further down and pull it in, and that pulls the water towards that roadside ditch. Initially, the water was running right down the county road. I've got examples of this. When they were redoing the road, they pushed all the gravel up, so there's a little hump right here on the roadside. So there's basically a little hump right here, all the way down. And the water would hit that, and it was just eroding away their road. So I, with the little rake, I pulled the water, I pulled some of that gravel up, made a little berm to pull it into my mulch swale. And as you can see, these things like that gravity-powered irrigation. And it just turns into bluebonnets. Thanks for watching.